Rahim alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome everybody to the Sufian Society Nothing But Facts live stream on an absolutely gorgeous Thursday. I mean, you have to see this to believe it. This is one of the nicest days we've had all year. And the encampments are continuing at Rutgers University. All the news is there. The news outlets were there. News outlets are there. Riot police is there. I actually went, but couldn't find parking, so ended up not going in. Gotta fix the situation here. My low. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on here. Biden said Americans have the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos. And he rejected the notion of sending in the National Guard. All right. So the latest is that protesters at Portland State are blocking police vehicles that hold demonstrators who are arrested. Okay. UCLA. Bharat Venkat, a professor. All right. He heard from some of his colleagues that they have been arrested and released, and they were planning again to meet up. So the professors are getting involved in some of these schools. All right. Look, I mean, there are consequences for your actions. You're going to support Israel and all of what they're doing. There are going to be consequences to that, and this is what's happening. Okay, and why it's taking place at the campus is because those are the students, those are the people in society in general who have the ability to do this. They have the time and the ability to do this. Okay. Most people are going to, go to work, worry about their jobs, worry about their families, take their kids to soccer practice, take their kids to tutoring, be busy. They don't have time for this. So it's why Allah created different types of people. Now we have students who have all the time in the world. Now the summer's coming. It'd probably be even more, in my opinion, because you think that a summer's coming, so it's going to be less. I think it may actually be more. All right. And it may not just be at universities. It could be in public squares. But the purpose here is to get these universities to divest. So the purpose is to give them a headache and voice their opinion and grow that opinion by coming together. Whenever a group of people comes together for something, that opinion grows, right? And they strengthen it and they discuss it and someone takes actions and then the action has a reaction, so on and so forth. Okay. Professor directed ire at the university for failing to stop violence by counter-protesters. So now there are a number of counter-protesters. There's a counter-protest at Rutgers. Let me read you that. Counter-protest there by... Hold on a second. Let me pull that up. All right, here it is. Counter-protest here by a Jewish organization. Students for Israel. All right at the Voorhees Mall, which is where the encampment is happening. This is Friday at 1 to 3 p.m. They chose Jummah time. Let's peacefully show our Zionist pride and spirit. It's going to be a bad word in a few years, sooner than that. Bring Israeli and U.S. flags, blankets, games, sports, supplies for arts and crafts. Kosher food certified by Bridge Turkish and Mediterranean Grill. Look them up, Habib. Bridge Turkish and Mediterranean Grill. Is that Jewish owned, or is it, one of our Muslim brothers who owns that? Because if that's the case, he's going to not get a nice reaction from us for supporting this and selling food to these people. Turkish kosher. Okay, fair enough. All right, highway personnel are involved at UCLA. The California Highway Patrol sent at least 250 officers to clear out the encampment. Okay, they had a large number of personnel. And now, for the second time in 2 weeks, the Columbia chapter of the American Association of University Professors called for the condemnation of Ni'mat Shafiq. If you're not aware of who she is, Ni'mat Shafiq is basically a failed university president. She has nothing to do with universities or Columbia. She's a PhD in economics from England. She worked at the World Bank, I believe. Okay, married the head of the World Bank, and then eventually became the president of Columbia University. Okay, head of Columbia. and completely botched this whole situation by going to Congress, going to the congressional hearing, selling out her colleagues. She literally sold out her colleagues. Her colleagues, she literally told Congress who amongst her colleagues is going to be not renewed and is going to be reprimanded for supporting, for statements made about Israel. She's a complete failure as a president because she tried to win the side of the stronger side. She tried to win the Jewish side of things. Well, what ended up happening is that they weren't pleased with her. Congress asked for her to resign. The students, obviously, she lost them when she called the police on the students. Invalidated their key cards or suspended their key cards from getting back in, and now is saying she's actually going to expel a lot of students who were involved in the Hamilton Hall takeover. The students took over a building called Hamilton Hall. So she lost the students. And then by selling out her faculty members at or the faculty at Congress at the congressional hearing, she lost out on the professors. She literally has no supporters at all. So let's the countdown for her begins. Okay. She says armed counterterrorism police on campus, student arrests, and harsh discipline were not the only path through this crisis, says the group in response to her. All right, here's another one. See, the New York Times has this really neat thing. They basically made their own Twitter page. It's not Twitter. It's on nyt.com. And it's all of their correspondence throughout the country. And they would just like put in a tweet length update. So you can get updates from all over the country. And they tell you basically this was 50 minutes ago, 58 minutes ago. So you get the minute by minute, which is cool. Let's go to University of Wisconsin. There at the Memorial Library, 34 people detained. There are 30 tents in Wisconsin, okay, fighting the support and calling for divestment, fighting support of Zionism and calling for divestment. The police say they made 2 arrests outside of Portland State University. So we're in Seattle now. Okay, Portland is now active. They have arrests happening there. Of course, you can imagine them to be the most strongest protest because that's the history of Seattle. Protesters erected barricades at various doors to fortify the library for a standoff. So the Portland State University library has been taken over by demonstrators. Very interesting to see here. Okay. Let's now go to, again in Portland, a few dozen demonstrators wearing masks, carrying makeshift shields. They made shields out of whatever they could make. Have run out of the library. Officers are tackling them and making arrests. All right. Let's go to Minnesota. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators at the University of Minnesota were dismantling an encampment Thursday morning, a day after they met with the school's president. In a statement, the university said it had agreed not to arrest or discipline students who have been protesting, and it said it would give them information about the university's financial holdings and allow them to advocate with the Board of Regents for divestment. Okay. All right. What else? Let's go to Rhode Island, where Brown University struck a deal with the students to end the encampments. All right. What was the deal? The deal would be that we will sit down and discuss divestment. I don't know if it's a good deal. It's just a discussion. Discussions mean very little, but I guess it's a step in the right direction. Now, Jewish voices are outraged that Brown University, following them Northwestern University, are agreeing to have discussions on divestment. Just a discussion, right? I'm telling you, Nassim Taleb, who has really good takes sometimes and really annoying takes sometimes. You know who Nassim Taleb is? He's like a Lebanese. He calls himself like what does he call himself? Whatever the Lebanese people, Assyrian, whatever the Lebanese people used to be before they were Arabs. Okay. That's what he calls himself. And, you know, the Crusaders came there. And the French intermarried with the Arabs, so you have these, like, completely Catholic Lebanese, right? And there were Christians there from before, but now these are, like, Catholic, Roman Catholic Lebanese. In any event, He's got some really smart things to say every once in a while. And one of the things he said was in response to this new bill that's coming out. There's a new bill coming out saying that the definition of anti-Semitism used by the Department of Education has to be the definition that was established by the Holocaust Memorial. Let's see exactly the here it is. Here it is. The new law requires the Department of Education to adopt the definition of anti-Semitism provided by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Okay? So we know that definition of then is going to be huge and ever-changing. So Nassim Nicholas Taleb says, I wonder if there's another example in history of a large empire becoming the vassal state of a tiny polity. Okay. The vassal state of a tiny polity. So we have Americans, allegedly, supposedly American citizens. Well, they are American citizens, these Jewish groups, outraged about America's or our university's relations with a foreign country. I liked what some person said here, that actual Judaism was going extinct, and making it a national identity, turning into a national identity, was the only way to save it. Right? It's interesting to say that, because just think about there's two things going on here. There's a religion and there's a nation, a separate other nation. If the Jews were smart, make yourself a bunch of nations. Yeah, Joseph N. got it. Yeah, Nassim calls himself Phoenician. All right, whatever that is. Yeah. As if these ancient cultures were so neat or something. Just people. Phoenician, Arab, whatever you want to call yourself. It doesn't make a difference. All right. But the smart thing for Jews to do, why don't you kind of arrange with some nations out there? I'm sure you could buy yourself some land and have multiple Jewish states. So if one screws up, you're not messed up, right? But they can't. In Judaism, you only have one country, and you're not even allowed to establish that. The Messiah only is allowed to establish that. The White House is taking a careful political tightrope, says the correspondent out of Washington. President Biden speaks for the first time on the protests. He's contending with a frustrated block of young voters who are concerned with many issues, including the number of civilians killed in Gaza. At the same time, Republicans are pointing to the chaos on campuses to accuse Biden of being weak on law and order. See, Biden, he's in a triple lose-lose. So with progressives, he's lost. Because progressives are, they're supporting all this. So he's lost the young Democrats. He's obviously, if he does anything harsh, he'll totally lose them. So he's stuck between them and the older Democrats who are hardcore Zionists. By being stuck, he's actually pleasing neither side and causing chaos to continue, causing this, in their view, chaos to continue. Well, who's going to jump on that? Republicans. They're going to say, here, what kind of president is this? He can't keep law and order, right? So he's, again, in a lose-lose-lose, much like Shafiq, lost on all three, at all three levels. In remarks to the White House on campus protests, all right, Biden tried to walk the fine line of defending the right to free speech while also condemning the violence of the protesters. And he cautioned against injecting politics into the debate at a time when anger over Israel's war is threatening his re-election campaign. Complete fail. Anytime you have to be nuanced in a moment like this, you fail. Even if you're right, you fail. Because the people are emotional, right? The people are emotional. They just want you to choose one side or another. In moments like this, he says, there are always those who rush in to score political points. But this is a moment for clarity, not politics. Well, nothing what really... He may be right technically on that, but it's not going to get him anywhere. He talks about the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos. So what are you supporting? I guess he's supporting them then. Biden says the protests have not forced him to reconsider his Middle East policies. Okay, you need all these guys out. All these senior citizens, all the old guard, they all get out. Biden says protests have not forced him to reconsider them, and the Republicans are suggesting, of course, that he's weak and that he's turned his back on Israel, and therefore they're going to capitalize. I don't think there's a single president today that would have been able to navigate this, unless you just make a decision. I'm going to choose one of these groups and score points with them only. And that's how you have to do it. You can't try to please two different groups. President Biden has been speaking in the White House. Okay, UCLA campus this morning. Now we shift to Los Angeles. It was a field of ruins, UCLA. I mean, the campus looks like atrocious. Sleeping bags, tents, pizza boxes, piles of roses. Law enforcement came with cameras, were documenting the aftermath early this morning, and other officers were posing for pictures in front of protest signs about Gaza. All right, let's go to New York. Fordham. 15 people at Fordham. Fordham is a campus in Manhattan. 15 people on Wednesday were arrested. Okay. The arrest is based upon it being illegal to pitch a tent in a campus. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. All right. For those in England, New Hampshire is part of a section in America called New England. All right. It's essentially Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. That's what we call in the United States New England. The president of Dartmouth there said that 90 people have been removed from the protest encampment on Wednesday night by force. Many were unaffiliated with the university. Okay. 132 were arrested in California. All right, let's go up and refresh this. See what's the latest.
Does this put people at risk of being kicked out of the school?
Yeah. In Columbia, the ones who took over the hall, It said that they're being kicked out. Expelled. Full expulsion. Expulsion, no mercy. Full expulsion. Because they took over a school building. Go ahead. All right. Let's shift now to a theological question. We have a theological question here. This question comes from... Bismillah. Let's read this. We're shifting points completely. Shifting gears, I mean, completely. Listen to Vince. What is his name again? Vin whatever?
Honestly, if a Muslim family moved next door to you, you would be the happiest person in the world. First of all, the chances of your kids getting in trouble just went way down. Okay, went way down. Because the Muslim community has the lowest crime rate, the highest entrepreneurship, the highest educational attainment for women in the country. They are the model American community.
All right, here's Muhammad QL9SF. Yesterday, a questioner named Muhammad QL9SF. He says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you please do another QA? I have a couple questions. Do all disbelievers go to hell? Of course, I've seen the classical interpretations for this, but they don't logically appeal to me. To me, they have different reasons for believing what they believe, and sending them eternally to hellfire doesn't seem very merciful. A more specific question, why does Abu Talib go to Jahannam even if he helped the Prophet so much? Just for not saying the kalima. All right, let's take this one step at a time here. Do all disbelievers go to hell? The answer is no. Allah told us that those who have heard the message and rejected it What is the message? Essentially just the identity that God sent a messenger, his name is Muhammad, with a message, with a book, message called a book, the Quran, and the religion is called Islam. Just that basic. Now it's up to them. It's up to them too. Just like when you say to somebody, there's a fire downstairs. I don't need to go into more details. Now it's on you. My liability is gone. Now that may not be the best dawah, but it is sufficient. They must be informed. There's punishment and reward in the next life. There's resurrection. Okay. So that essential message of Islam, that you're responsible in sight of God. God created you, made you, sent you a messenger, sent you a book, and that there's resurrection and punishment and reward. Okay? Because we can fathom that someone says, hey, God created us and sent us a messenger named Muhammad. If I'm someone who doesn't know about that Islam talks about an afterlife, I don't have a motivation yet. So the fact that I'm going to be judged is extremely important. And that's part of the message of Islam that we give in dawah. So that by itself, you've given the message. Now it's upon them now to research it and to look at it. Because also, you can't get subjective in this. You can't get subjective, say, okay, first of all, you have to be really nice. You got to be really smiling. Your appearance has to match the culture of that person. It's too much, right? No, you just give the message, right? Those who have not received any message at all, or received a distorted message like the Nation of Islam. It's called Islam. They call Allah, God Allah, and they call their Prophet Muhammad, but it's a completely different identity. Elijah Muhammad, obviously different identity. Okay, Allah, they even have some kind of, they say he manifested in the form of a man and came down to the earth in the form of a man. Okay, so it's a whole different religion, even if the names are the same. If someone has received a distorted message or no message at all, then they don't go to hellfire, they go to paradise. And that is by the Quranic statement, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. We are not punished until we send a messenger. And that is mutlaq. في الدنيا والآخرة. Not just in the dunya. It's in the dunya and in the akhirah. And as for the hadith, that they'll be resurrected and they will be tested with a test from Allah on the day of judgment, is an ahad hadith that the ulama say that if we choose one or the two, we're going to choose the verse of Quran, because the Quran also tells us that this is the abode of testing, not the other life. The afterlife is not the abode of testing. This is the abode of testing. What do the scholars do when there's such a seeming apparent contradiction? They simply suspend it. They don't say that it's a false hadith, but they say we don't know what the Prophet meant. Okay, we don't know if there was more to it. Okay, that the Prophet said that we don't know. Omar, give a haduk. How's it going? Took your final exam? Yeah. How's the protest going at Rutgers? Do you see it?
I haven't seen it, but
I tried to go. I couldn't find parking. It was really bad until I had to come. I had to leave.
They're planning on calling riot police or something. That's what I've heard.
To do what? Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of police too.
Hmm?
There's a lot of police presence. Right?
Yeah. All right, so that's the first question. So not all disbelievers go there, but the disbeliever has received the message. Yes, Allah tells us he's on a path to hellfire. We that's what we say. We say this person died a death that is earning hellfire. He earns it. What Allah does with him, that's his business, but that's what he's earned. And that's the threat. That is what Allah is threatening. So that I've seen the classical interpretation for this, which means he knows what I just said. He knows that. All right, but it doesn't logically appeal to me. So what would logically appeal to you? How about this? What if we said, you, Muhammad QLN9SF, how about you stand at the gates of heaven and hell and you decide? Would you like that? Now, most people, a lot of people, you either have two answers. Either yes, I would, or no, Allah's the more merciful than me. If you say yes, I would love that, and I would put everyone in hell, in paradise, is it based on what knowledge? Right? Based on what right? So the idea of I don't like something, how do you even know that heaven and hell exist in the first place? Right? It's from Allah. And Allah tells you he's the most merciful and he's the most knowledgeable too. So why are you worried? Why are you worrying yourself with this issue? You don't even believe in heaven and hell unless, except because of Allah told us about this. Heaven and hell is not something you're going to think about or do some kind of demonstrative experiment to discover that it exists, like electricity, right? You only believe in it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us about it. Well, Allah also informed us that He knows best, He has wise purposes, and He is the most compassionate. Now, when you say that Abu Talib or some non-believer who thinks that he genuinely doesn't believe in Islam and genuinely believes in Catholicism, for example, or Abu Talib who helped the Prophet, peace be upon him, so much, and you, in your conception, think that that's not merciful, that they would go to hellfire, let's look at what you actually know. What do you actually know? You only know what the person told you. You only know the outward of what Abu Talib did. Okay? Even, let's leave out Abu Talib because let's say there's aqwal. Even if it's weak, but let's say there's aqwal. So leave that out. You only know what the outward of the person. Are you going to actually make a judgment just on the external of the person? Right? And you don't know what actually moved in his heart. So you should, if you're fair, actually disqualify yourself as a judge. Lack of knowledge. I don't know enough. That's really what you should say. I really don't know enough. But what I do know about people, I don't know about people to make a judgment on them in terms of heaven and hell. In the sense of, like, why do they earn that? Why do they deserve that? All that we could say is that we hold Allah to be most knowledgeable, most merciful, and this is what He told us. It's not anyone's decision that, you know, who is to go to heaven and hell. It's what Allah told us that He's going to do. And He's threatened these people, if you get this message and you don't believe, I'm going to put you in hell. Okay? So it's really above your pay grade. The summary of it is really this above your pay grade. And you should disqualify. I understand that you have feelings towards these people, but they're not justified. You don't have enough knowledge. You don't know about them. You don't know what they do behind closed doors. You don't know what goes on in their hearts. Okay? All right, so that's the answer to that query and that question. Okay. All right, what else you have here? Let us shift now to this next article. Yeah, let's hear it. Perth. I don't know, to be honest with you. Perth. Is that like, is it a big deal? Is it nice or something? I think all of Australia is nice, to be honest with you. It's all gorgeous, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the dates for the trip?
The date of the trip is June 24th. All right. And then all the way to the end of the month. Yeah. Iraq passes a law banning homosexuality with 15 years in prison. I guess that's public homosexuality is banned now. Okay. Here's an opinion piece by Tracy Ann Oberman, a Jewish woman out of England. All right. And she says, this week, James Bond actress Samantha Bond received a backlash on Twitter following a tweet she directed to fellow actress and passionate Zionist Tracy Ann Oberman. The now deleted tweet read, Tracy, what is your response to Israel's actions today? 7 people dead trying to feed the starving. No, sorry, this is not by Tracy Ann Oberman. This is just a summary of what happened. Bond was referring to the 7 international aid workers who were intentionally killed by Israel on Monday night. Immediately following her tweet, a large number of staunch Zionist tweeters quote tweeted her and expressed outrage. The predominant sentiment was that it's anti-Semitic to question a Jewish person about the actions of a foreign government. Right? So this got me thinking, is it anti-Semitic to question a random Jewish person about the actions of Israel? Don't we get questioned all the time? Hey, did you guys see what ISIS did? Did you see what Saudi did? Afghanistan did? What do you think of this? What do you think of... all right. And can this be compared to holding all Muslims accountable for the actions of ISIS and asking Muslims to condemn terrorism. There's a lot to unpack here. Tracy Ann Oberman, apparently she's an actress. I mean, nobody's ever heard of her. But let's be clear. You guys, you heard of her, Habib? Kind of, I mean, Bond, yeah. Okay, James, so you're in a James Bond movie? Okay, that's something, right? First, let's be clear. Those who require all Muslims to condemn terrorism are Islamophobic. These are people who are deeply suspicious of Muslims about how we think as a group and what we really talk about behind closed doors. It's a national obsession, a fascination about how many of us are extreme and how many of us are moderate. It's why thumbnails with pictures of Muslim women in hijab get the most clicks. Islamophobes are numerous and they're obsessed with Muslims. Jews don't suffer this phenomenon. No newspaper puts visible Jews on the front page because it simply wouldn't work as clickbait. Well, also, the owner of the paper is 70% chance is Jewish in the first place. And the editor is probably 80% chance is Jewish. A pro-Palestinian activist like myself are not concerned about whether British Jews support Israel or where their loyalties lie. We simply seek to hold those who support genocide to account. Now, while it is true that Israel's actions are partly inspired by the extremist interpretation of Judaism, the relevance of Jewishness is overstated by Zionists as a means of deflection to bring in the anti-Semitism slur. Okay, we could have a perfectly constructive discussion about Israel's crimes without having to even mention Jews. See, this is why most Muslims and Christians don't get this. Our religion is not intertwined with a land, right? Yeah, we have holy sites, the mosques and everything, but it's not intertwined with a homeland, a national homeland. That's the biggest difference. So if Pakistan was, let's say hypothetically, half of Pakistan was just wiped off the map, taken over, yeah, that's a problem. But has Islam been threatened by that? No. Has your ability to be a Muslim be threatened by that? If I get somebody and say, listen, I'm going to consider Islam, but let me just tell you right now, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Iran, I hate all these countries. I'm saying we could care less, right? Doesn't affect one, right, being a Muslim. But same thing with Christianity. You could be Christian in South America. You could be Christian in Africa. There's no nation that it's intertwined with. The identity of being a Christian is not intertwined with a nation and a national identity. And Israel is. So you cannot talk about, so every time you touch the national identity, you're actually touching the religious identity. That's how they view it. But then again, when you say, okay, well, nationalism is established on secularism, right? The idea of the nation state in the first place and nationalism, it's predicated upon a separation of revealed beliefs, religious beliefs, and just observable and rational facts. That's what secularism is, essentially. So they've basically taken a part of secularism, which is the nationalism element, and merged it with their religious identity. And that's why every time someone touches Israel, they say, oh, you're touching my Judaism. Okay. That's the game they're playing. All right, so it's a way to deflect the anti-Semitic slur. We could have a perfectly constructive discussion about this without mentioning Jews or Judaism. Israel is a nation, right? When you have nationalism, it is a secular construction completely. The concept of the nation state and your loyalty to the nation state is a completely secular construction. But Israel does not treat it as a secular construction. It's merged with their religious life. If any Muslim, has you ever seen any Muslim say that in any period of time in Islamic history, that to be a Muslim is to support the governor of Mecca or the governor of Medina? Never. The governor of Medina, he could be a tyrant, oppressor, whatever you want. We can kick him out completely. We could have no loyalty to the government of Medina, right? Most Muslims today do not have a loyalty to the king of Saudi Arabia. And there's the two holy cities. Of course, when you need to make Umrah, yeah, you need to pledge your loyalty in front of everybody, and cameras included, so that you can go to Umrah without going to jail, right? That's because the man is a chopper. He chops people up. So no one wants to mess around. We want to go to these holy cities of ours. But set that aside, there's no national identity connected to Islam. Yeah, we believe in Khilafah for establishing Islam, not that the identity of this nation, okay, and its flag, and its government, and its policies, and all that. All right. It says here the crimes of Israel as a nation state are so numerous and well documented. It's a criminal state. It's a terroristic state. Okay. So why did Bond feel the need to publicly question Oberman? She could have directed the tweet to non-Jewish Zionists such as Douglas Murray and Julia Hartley Brewer. Okay. The truth is, it has nothing to do with Oberman being Jewish. Rather, it's more likely because Oberman is a vocal defender of Israel, right? Who has voiced opposition to ceasefire unless all hostages are released. By taking this stance, she puts the power of releasing hostages onto innocent Palestinians. This is pretty much a parroting of the official Israeli stance. So Oberman is participating in collective blame. She also recently took a cozy selfie with Israel propagandist Douglas Murray and called the IDF supporter a very clever man. All right. So Oberman remains a mainstream figure, maybe on, I don't know, Channel 4 in England or something, or ITV, channels that we Americans don't have, obviously. She's an actress in a popular West End production, and she has appeared casually on daytime TV in England, of course. So it's absolutely fair to expect a statement from her about any atrocity committed by the IDF. I don't have many statements to make about entertainment, but when I do, I prefer the entertainment, the entertainers to stay out of real life stuff, right? If you're going to sports or entertainment, you're going to forget all your real life issues. When they actually become political and you get into their personal lives and stuff, it sort of ruins it for me. In contrast, Muslims who have not expressed support for ISIS and other terrorist groups, which is the overwhelming majority, right? Individual Muslims shouldn't be questioned about the crimes ISIS commit. In fact, rather than supporting ISIS, most Muslims are suspicious of who they really are and who's funding them. That's not the case with the general Jewish community's relationship with Israel. All right? It's very hard to pin any politics on Muslims in general. Okay? But Jews is the opposite. Right? Every synagogue in the United States has a flag of Israel in it. So they've intertwined their religion with a nation, a foreign nation. Okay? So my local Jewish school, says the author here, states in its mission statement that it aims to nurture children's Jewish identity and love of Israel. So if we opened a mosque or something, or in a school, and we said our mission statement is to increase our knowledge of Islam, devotion to the religion, and love of Erdogan's state of Turkey, right? Because it's he's the heir of the Ottoman Empire. What would happen then? What would happen to your tax status? All right. I don't know of any Islamic school in Britain that encourages children to love Saudi Arabia or any other Muslim nation. What's more, we are told repeatedly by Zionists that the bulk of Jews support Israel, and anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, and that anti-Zionist Jews are a tiny minority of rejected oddballs. Now listen up. If the West is going to go this route, and they're going to continue their complete enslavement to the state of Israel, just wait to see what happens to you. It's not going to be pretty. Israel has never come to the support of the United States or England. How many times has America been to war since the inception of the state of Israel? How many soldiers has Israel sent to these wars? How many soldiers has could you look it up actually? How many soldiers has Israel sent to support American troops in Afghanistan and Iraq? Forget this, the fact that these are, unjust wars in themselves. But has the IDF supported? And how much money has Israel sent? They clearly have enough money to buy all these politicians. We read it yesterday. If you missed yesterday's episode on American puppets, AIPAC, American Israeli Political Action Committee, probably spent $100 million a year. Where are they getting this money from? Probably $100 million, no less, $100 million a year, essentially buying American politicians. And when you realize that, That's not even that cheap. I mean, to buy a country, to buy the politicians of a country, $100 million, $200 million a year. Why didn't Saudi do that? Why didn't Saudi do that? Right? Why didn't any other country do that? It's actually not that expensive, to be honest with you. Right? To be honest with you, it's not even that expensive. So they have the money. Why haven't they helped you? Okay. I don't think it's okay to target random Jews and question them about what Israel is doing, but it is fair when a Zionist, an open Zionist, is questioned about their beliefs. Okay? You can't claim that most Jews support Israel and anti-Zionist Jews are a bunch of oddball nuts like the Natura Carta and the Satmar Jews. That's what they call them, just a bunch of oddballs and weirdos. They cannot claim that Jews support Israel, then considered anti-Semitic if your question about Israel's actions. All right? It's a clear paradox. Soon after her tweet, Bond became the target of a vicious, coordinated counterattack by high-profile Zionists. She was accused of anti-Semitism, received masses of abuse, which led her to delete the tweet and publicly apologize to Oberman. You know who told her that? Her agent, with all of his Jewish contacts in his phone. He said, listen, you want to ever work with Columbia Pictures? You want to ever work with Sony Pictures again? You ever want to work with Fox 20th Century Fox? You ever want to work with Netflix again? Apologize, or your Hollywood career is done for. Okay? You're finished. Having been on the receiving end, taking that based upon Dave Chappelle. He said about Hollywood, okay, he says a lot of Jews. That's all I have to say. That's what he said, right? He said it's a lot of Jews. Okay. You saw that clip? Dave Chappelle on Saturday Night Live? Yeah. At least officially. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Having been on the receiving ends of an organized Zionist pylon myself, I fully understand why Bond felt the need to do this. The fact is, being labeled anti-Semitic for the first time can be deeply hurtful. But having a quick glance at the profiles of some of the Zionists expressing righteous indignation and false outrage, the matter becomes all the more absurd. You know, you should never apologize for these things. In fact, you should find a way to double down. Many are active and vocal supporters of Israel's war on Gaza, have been staunchly against a ceasefire, and have been part of a long campaign to malign pro-Palestinian voices. One commentator was a notorious Zionist extremist, Lee Kern, who called Bond a piece of expletive in response to her tweet to Oberman. This is a man who has joked about dead Palestinian babies and collectively blamed ordinary Palestinians for the October 7 attack. If you have views like these, you are in no place to call someone anti-Semitic. At some point, listen, someone out there is going to say in public, in the open, I guess I'm anti-Semitic. Because you guys have overused it too much and conflated it with critique of a foreign country. Let me be clear. Samantha Bond's tweet to Oberman was more than reasonable. I hope that, like I did, Bond will come to the realization that these attacks are solely for the purpose of trying to discredit the pro-Palestinian movement and shut down any criticism of Israel. Since the world witnessed the intentional murder of 7 international aid workers, Zionists have only become more desperate, more hysterical, and more unhinged. I hope Bond will soon rise above it and continue to speak out. Who wrote this? Okay. Why isn't there an author written here? Why is it just written by 5 pillars? I don't know. And the person refers to herself. The author is referring to herself. Right? So why is it that there's no author written here? Can we ask what's his name? So let me guess something. She's a James Bond actress, but her name is also Samantha Bond. Is that a coincidence or what? That they have the same? Huh? I guess, yeah, that's why she got the role, right? Let's go back to this story. Miss Birbalsingh, She is a Hindu head of school for a private school that is 70% or 80% Muslims. And she says here yesterday, the tide of Muslim youth asserting their identity is unstoppable. Okay. It's the Michaela school, community school issue again. All right. And in this case, they had a policy you can't pray in school. They had a policy that you can't pray in school. Muslim girl went to the school and said, well, maybe we could talk to them. They said, no, we said you can't pray in school. So she took it to court. Of course, the court said, no, we are going to rule with the school because you knew that you can't pray here. Right? But the head of school saying this identity, right, Muslim identity is unstoppable. All right? It just continues to grow and grow and grow and go. All right? And that's a summary of this article. That's it. All right. It's an unstoppable trend of young Muslims asserting their religious beliefs. Okay. So, that's her. What's our man Muhammad Hijab saying these days? I demand an apology from Norwegian's MP's libelous accusation. What did he say about Muhammad Hijab? Very cool guy to hang out with. Him and if we were there, if Safina Saudi guys were there, that would be our crew. Him and Hamza Sortitz. Like the mazaj is the same. All right. Huh?
On the same wavelength, like liberalism.
Yeah.
All this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So Muhammad Hijab had this back and forth, or he said something in an article about Hijab's recent visit to Oslo. At the invitation of the IslamNet organization, Robstad said that hijab had gone a long way in legitimizing violence and suicide actions. What? Really? So then he's failing then, because where are his followers who do that? Where are his followers that support violence and suicide? Okay. So Hijab said, this is in response to the distorted fabrications. Okay. What did these guys put the AC on 40 or something? Yesterday? It's freezing. The AC should be like 68, 69. That's on 68? Well, it's really cold. It was on 66 before. Okay, that's why. This is a response to the inaccurate and distorted fabrications of the Norwegian MP Kjell Ingolf Ropstad, who indirectly asked the Justice Minister of Norway to impose a ban on myself from entering the country and demand to know what she would do to prevent radicalization among Muslim youth. Okay. And prevent the influence of extremists, referring to hijab. I usually would not spend this much effort in a task like this, but since it has legal implications, I'll afford myself the luxury. Shocking first part of his question stated that the speech on my channel entitled The Message to Jews went a long way in legitimizing violence and suicide actions against Jews. Suffice it for me to say that I deny these distortions categorically and would challenge anyone to provide a shred of evidence for such a heinous and repugnant claim. Okay. Here is what he said. The Quran is extending the olive branch to every Jew in the world. You can be part of this community. Yes, you can be. This is what Allah is telling us in the Quran. There is something more. But then the question is, if your belief is one which encourages preservation of life at all costs, and religion is not like that, because yes, preservation of life is important, but preservation of religion is more important. And there's a concept of martyrdom, then I would consider that to be an advantage, frankly, because as Robert Greene said, the one who is willing to commit suicide has the initiative. I'm not saying to commit suicide or anything, right? I'm just saying figuratively that the one who is willing to take it further, all right? So that's the quote, right, that she said went a long way when he actually denounced suicide. Anyway, that's the case, and I wish that we could hang out a little bit more, because he's just one of those guys that's easy to hang out with and easy to like. Let's take a shift here into another segment, and we continue now. We probably should have done this first on Ash-Shajara Nabawiyya. Let's read from this and continue our reading from this, where we read about the brothers of Abdullah bin Abbas. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. He has a full brother named Ubaydullah ibn Abbas. Okay. He was younger than Abdullah bin Abbas by 1 year, but he didn't have any lineage. Okay, another full brother, Qutham. Okay, and he was martyred actually in Samarkand. He died. Another one is Abdul Rahman. He also full brother of Abdullah bin Abbas, but no, and he was killed in Sham, and some say in North Africa. Ma'bad ibn al-Abbas, also full brother, and he was martyred in Africa. Ifriqiya, they usually means Qayrawan, Tunisia, but I don't know where. It just says Ifriqiya. Then Habiba, all right, is a companion. She's a Sahabiya. Then he had another brother named Tammam, also no lineage. Then there's Kathir ibn al-Abbas, no lineage. Al-Harith ibn al-Abbas, he had a lineage, but of course it faded away. Subayh ibn, because we know it faded away because there's only a handful of lineages of Ahlul Bayt. Hassan, Hussein, Talib, Aqil, Jafar, Sayyidina Ali from other than Fatima. That's 6. And then Abbas, 7 lineages of Ahlul Bayt. Mishar, Subayh is her mother. Amina, Safiya. All right. Next, we go now to the 6th uncle of the Prophet. So we're done with Al-Abbas. Now we go to the 6th one. Hajl is the uncle of the Prophet. And he only had Murrah. That's it. He only had one child and no comments on it. So there's not much known by them. Then there's Al-Muqawwam. Al-Muqawwam is the 7th uncle of the Prophet. And he had daughter Hind and daughter Arwa. That's it. Then we go to the 8th uncle of the Prophet. Who was the 8th uncle? Abu Talib. And who were his lineages? Okay. Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Of course, he's not the oldest, but he's put there for the honor of Sayyidina Ali. Talib is the oldest. He died and he did not enter Islam. Okay. Aqil ibn Abi Talib is number 2. All right. He's number 2. And he's 10 years older than Sayyidina Ali, and he died in the Khilafah of Muawiyah. Of course, entered Islam. And Muslim, his son, was helping Sayyidina Ali go to Muslim ibn Aqil, was helping Sayyidina Ali go, Sayyidina Hussein go to Kufa, and eventually was cut off and was killed in the mission. Then there is Jafar ibn Abi Talib. He had a lineage, and he was killed in Mu'tah, we know that, in the year 8th after the Hijrah. There's a very tough battle that the Muslims had to fight called Mu'tah, which is now in Jordan. And what happened was that the Prophet ﷺ sent an ambassador to the Romans who were in that area. Well, what happened was they killed the ambassador. Now, when they kill your ambassador, what do you have to do? You have to answer. You can't tolerate this. Okay? You can't tolerate this. So the Prophet has to send an army. He sent an army. In that army, it consisted of Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, and he was killed in that at Battle of Mu'tah. And he looked so much like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam too. And he was 10 years younger than Aqil. Okay. وهو جد الجعافرة. Al-Ja'afira is a lineage. Ja'afira means the people from Ja'far, the lineage of Ja'far. And then Abu Talib had Hani, who is Fakhita. Hani or Hani, same meaning, same name. And Fakhita. Fakhita is her actual name. And she made hijrah And she believed in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. وخرجت إلى هبيرة ابن وهب المخزومي فولدت له عمرا وجعده. Right. And then there is a sixth one named Jumana. So if you see people named Jumana is the sister of Sayyidina Ali. Okay. And she also entered Islam. Okay. And she also, she married Abu Sufyan ibn al-Harith. There's two Abu Sufyans. Abu Sufyan ibn Harb is from Umayyah, Bani Umayyah. The uncle of the Prophet is Abu Sufyan, or the cousin of the Prophet is Abu Sufyan ibn al-Harith. So don't confuse the two Abu Sufyans. Abu Sufyan ibn Harb, that's the father of Muawiyah, cousin of Uthman. It's from a different tribe, clan completely. Abu Sufyan ibn al-Harith, that's the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All right, and that ends all of our discussion on the uncles of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and their children. The next thing that we will go to is the aunts of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the Ammat al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, there is 6 aunts of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we'll cover those next until we finish the entire book. All right, let's go to the Q&A now. Let's open this up and go to our Q&A. Go ahead, Habib.
So, like, a lot of people that are part of these encampments,
Yeah.
like, what's the advice for the people that are there? Because I know a lot of people are going there, and it's like, it just becomes like a hangout session, or it's like, a lot of sitting around. You're there for a long time. So, what can people do as, like, the Muslims that are there for a long period? Like, what can you do there?
Was your mic on, by the way? Turn your mic on. Just so people can hear what you say. All right, then say again your question.
My question is, what's the advice for the people in the encampments, like the Muslims there, that are there for a long period of time? What can they do that's productive and useful towards the purpose of, what they're there to do?
All right, so the question is, to be honest with you, it's not going to be any different from, they should be planning, really. They should be having meetings and planning what to do. To be honest, I can't tell you what to do from that angle, but I really don't have an answer, to be honest with you. But they should make use of their time, do something useful. But I can't really give you any serious answer to it. But I assume what they're doing out there is that they're planning a march, talking, spreading the message, spreading word, getting more people to come, things like that.
That's a strong need.
Huh? You have to have a strong intention. What's the intention? Is to get the university's attention, get them to divest. Okay. Could you please do a live on a topic that affects everyday Muslims? Relationship, marriage, friendship, health, mental health, good and bad deeds in relation to the afterlife. Yeah, inshallah, we could do that. We could do that. Why do Sunnis say the Imam needs to be from Quraysh? It's not Sunnis, it's the Prophet, peace be upon him. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Khilafatu fi Quraysh. Why? Because the religion came to them and they're not going to really truly respect anyone else. Okay, they're not going to, and there could be another reason, and Allah knows best, right? But is that racism or tribalism? No, because it's nobody's right to be the Khalifa, right? Tribalism and racism is when you deny people their God-given rights because of who they are, right? Everyone can eat except this group, or this group gets a drink first if we're about to die. No, it's nobody's right to be the Khalifa. So what are they losing? Racism and tribalism is that your rights are being withheld from you just because of who you are. There's no tribalism, racism there. Does Allah give good omens in the creation? Yes. Yes. We believe in good omens and we don't believe in bad omens. And here's the thing. Good omens, we are allowed to have a good opinion of Allah without omens. That's why with a good omen, all right, you just basically reminded me to have a good opinion of Allah. And we don't base actions on omens. We just feel better when there's a good omen. It just gives us a feeling that Allah's with us. It triggers that feeling for us. But we're allowed to believe and should believe that Allah is with us and supporting us anyway. And we don't believe in bad omens. Okay? We don't believe in bad omens. If Allah does not want us to do something, and He tells us, don't do this in the Sharia directly. Okay? Bad omen is for someone who is on misguidance, a disbeliever in the first place, and believes in those bad omens. Then it makes things worse for them. And they were on the wrong path to begin with. Okay. What are some signs that someone is a true Sayyid? No, there's no signs. It's got to be documented. That's it. They have to have some kind of form of documentation. Sharif Antoyo has a good question, comment on the people from the what we talked about before. Sharif, of course, is from Detroit. He says, why would you worry about finding interpretations for why people will not go to hell because you think they're good? Why don't you focus on dawah instead? Right? Just like all the people who, when a non-Muslim dies, they say, rest in peace, God have mercy on you. And we're not allowed to do that, right? We don't make dua for someone who passed away outside of Islam. Why? Because what is that dua? It's an Islamic practice for paradise and avoiding hell, which they didn't believe in. So why are you forcing your religion suddenly on them now? And then they get defensive. No, we have to pray for them. Wait a second. Did you give him dawah when he was alive? You never gave them dawah when they were alive. Why are you now so gung-ho about praying for them? If a Hindu prayed for me, I was like, firstly, I don't believe in any of your prayers. And don't say my name if I died, right? I wouldn't want you to pray for me. Keep me out of your religion. Oh, may God give him the nirvana or whatever they believe in, okay? And God join him with the elephant man and the lady with 9 arms. No, don't pray for me, okay? I don't believe in any of your religion in the first place. So it's respect, too. It's actually a form of respect. But while they're alive, we make dua for them. So the question is, you're so gung-ho about praying for someone after they died. Did you give him dawah when he was alive? Shay'un ajib. Okay. Diana LaRussa says, I'm very proud of these protesters. My alma mater held these protests also. Can you go over your views again? I just tuned in. Okay, Diana LaRussa, this is an Islamic podcast. And we basically teach Islam. We're Muslims. That's basically the point of our podcast. And it's we also look at current events, and we just basically are shooting the breeze sometimes. That's sort of the style here, and we cover a lot of different subjects, but that's essentially what we are. Does Allah accept such tawbah and ignore such dua which aren't meant to be answered? Me and my brother were having an argument, and I said, we don't need more people like you. May you not bear children. I regretted it instantly and made tawbah twice after that. Okay, good. And now make the opposite dua for him. May Allah bless your children and make your children good. Okay. Zain Aiden. Recommendation on beginning the path of Allah. I recommend you to go to safinasadi.org/wird, W-I-R-D, and start with those prayers in the morning and in the evening, aside from your obligatory prayers and recitation of Quran. And then I highly recommend you watch the videos of Habib Omar bin Hafiz that are translated into English. That's what I recommend for everyone to take. And if you want to study with us, I'm teaching 2 classes on Islamic spirituality now at arcview.org, Tuesday and Wednesday. So again, you can go to arcview.org and check out those classes. Sign up. It's like $12 a month, but you also get tons of other classes. All right, you get tons of other classes that are pre-recorded and also live at the same time. So there's a lot of live. You also get WhatsApp access to talk to all the teachers live. ArcView Essentials, all right, is what it's called. $12 a month. You could sign up for that, and you get a lot. And we try to take you through the journey of knowledge step by step. What else can you do? You can come to Jersey this summer. Go to darulfats.org, Habib. And we got Habib at the helm today. And we got Omar sitting right next to me here today. Darulfats.org, but no space there. You can come to Jersey. Spend all summer, all of July and August with us. Go to darulfat.org. Get yourself an apartment here in New Brunswick. I'm thinking we're going to get one so that the brothers could just stay. And if brothers come, we'll just eat up the cost. But get that. Take Arabic classes 4 days a week. 3 in person, 1 virtual. You can also attend this live stream, attend Jummah with us, attend all of our lunches, all of our dinners, all of our other programs, all of our picnics, and everything else. You'll have a packed summer. You will be so busy every single day. There will be at least something to do. You could join the Hifz Academy, too. Memorize yourself 2-3 juz. Study Arabic 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. You'll be very busy. You know what? Right now, I'm going to tell the brothers right now about this. I think we should get ourselves an apartment for the summer. Let's just rent it to like $1,200 a month, and then we can actually tell people that we got an apartment. Then we can just sublease it to them. There.
It's my legal name. I've been Muslim for 40 years.
Oh, mashallah. She said, "What are you about?" So I figured maybe she doesn't even know what this is. Are these Muslims? Are these what? So there you go. All right. So she's been Muslim longer than most of us have been alive, right? She said, "What are you about?" So I figured maybe she doesn't even know that we're Muslims here. Okay. Mashallah. That's wonderful. Wonderful. Mashallah. Link Darul Fats too. The application, at least for the Arabic. Well, the Arabic program costs $350. So the bulk of what you're going to be paying is for your own food and your own rent. Okay. I get into heated arguments, says Azma Salman. Azama. I get into heated arguments with my siblings regarding Islam and spoiling our relationship. What's the solution? No argumentation. No argumentation. Do not argue. We have a rule. There's a rule of the heart here. When 2 people argue, their hearts separate. When people agree, their hearts come together. Okay? When you say assalamu alaikum and you smile to somebody, their heart inclines to you. When you do something good to them, their heart inclines to you. So you're going to have to play the long game by being very patient and, I don't want to say tolerant, but just patient with their strange beliefs, and only talk about what you agree on. And in 30 years, things may be different. In less than that, 10 years or 20 years, things may be different. I've seen many of these family situations, and this is the best route. This is the best route. Okay? Your hearts need to be together. Nobody will agree to somebody that they hate. And if they have come to hate you, you got a problem. So don't argue. Because when you argue, they will come to hate you. Okay? What advice would you give to someone facing long-term hardships? They make a lot of dua. They put in effort to improve. They try to minimize their sins, but they see things just getting worse over time. First of all, this question from Atif. The long-term hardship is what forges who we are. Okay. Who you're going to be, all right, is forged by the long-term hardships that you face. And essentially, it breeds within a person patience and strength and persistence. Keep that Arabic thing up the whole time, the rest of the time. All right? It forges that. So that's why you got to have a lot of fortitude, patience, and persistence. And it may be getting worse. Just keep making istighfar, but also look in the books of Islamic law, the books of fiqh, and see what you're doing wrong. There could be something you're doing wrong. If my bank account keeps going down and down and down, and I work and I earn more money and it keeps going even more down, what's the solution? Well, maybe I'm spending too much. Maybe I have like 50 subscriptions that I don't use. Each one is, $5. So that's like the source. There must be a reason in my actions. Now, let's say I'm way under. I'm like $500,000 in debt. Then I clean up shop completely. I sit with an accountant. I clean up shop. I take out all the expenses that I don't need. Now, after a year, I'm only 400,000 in debt. Now, I'm still in debt, but I'm getting better. I'm not going to be back to zero from nothing. Maybe 400,000 in debt, 300,000 in debt, 100,000 in debt. If you're on Instagram, by the way, and you want to see the whole picture, come over to Safina Sayyid YouTube channel. A lot of people join us on Instagram. I see them on the right there, and including Sheikh Abdullah Misra. Ahlan wa sahlan. Marhaban bikum. So if you want to see the whole picture, because sometimes when we had an advertisement up or got a poster up, you only see half the picture. So hop over to YouTube to get the whole picture. Okay. But point being is that you're not going to go from $500,000 in debt to making money. It's going to take time. So it may appear that nothing's happening. I'm still in debt. But if you look in the big picture, you're making a lot of progress. It takes a while to go from darkness to less dark to kind of dark to a little dark to light gray, and now your head is above water finally. So you have to wait and be patient. Okay. All right, Habiba has a question. What is Habiba's question here? Where is it? This has to do with belief in the afterlife. A friend confused about Islam wants to know what are the restrictions on watching romance. The same restrictions in general in Islamic law. Yeah, you're not supposed to watch indecency. So if insofar as there's indecency in these movies, then you don't watch that part. Now, if somebody is just coming and learning Islam for the first time and they're barely on the edge, you just tell them to fast forward those parts. There are rules in Islam, but there's also an application of those rules that's reasonable. Do you want to know the rule? The rule is that we're not allowed to look at a woman who's not wearing hijab. Right? We're not allowed to look at all these wonderful, beautiful guys if you're a woman. Okay? We're not allowed to be looking at people kissing each other and dating and committing sins with each other. Right? But if you want to know the practical application of this, and you have a person who's just prays and fasts 5 times a day, fasts one Ramadan, and is barely in Islam in that way, just a general Muslim, and you know if you tell them this is haram, don't ever do it, they're not going to do it. Simple as that. Then you tell them what is less than that, which is at least fast forward the parts that are completely indecent and try to watch stuff that doesn't have a lot of cursing in it. Right? That's as advice. So there's a difference between ruling and advice. You can't confuse these two. All right? And you should always sort of say them both together so that nobody thinks that your advice is the ruling and therefore you're screwing up the truth. You're messing up the truth here. Right? There are rules in Islam. We have several generations of Muslims who have not been observing these, now live in a world where it's extremely difficult to do that in many cases, in many rulings in Islam. So now we have to just deal with that situation and pick your own battles. That's why I said there's a ruling and then there's advice. Okay? There was a private gathering, and one of the hosts at a house, he hosted a big sheikh, big scholar. Okay? And the sheikh walked past a room. There's a guitar there. Now, we know in Islamic law, these instruments are not lawful for us to use. They're a distraction from Allah. They're a distraction from the Quran. Okay? So he said, whose is this? He said, it's my younger brother. He plays the guitar. So what did the sheikh say? He says, tell him to make, the lyrics that he does good. I'm going to sing some words that are good. So, do you think the sheikh doesn't know the rule? Is he changing the rule of Allah? Or is he actually being wise and saying the ruling is one thing? When you're with someone who is not going to follow this ruling, you are now obligated to at least give him what he can follow. It's not all or nothing. So at least don't curse when you're doing this. At least don't sing about something that's indecent. Okay? At the very least. So that's the way we have to understand things. So when a scholar gives such a piece of advice, it does not mean that's his fiqh. We have to understand that. And we also have to have some basic common sense that when you're dealing with somebody, you got to talk to them at the level that they're going to practice. That there's no point in giving someone, all right, how many push-ups should I do? Right? And you're a guy who's ex-military and you just do 50 push-ups every 10 minutes and say, well, at least 500 a day. He's not going to do that. Tell him 10 a day. All right? Then 20 a day, then 50 a day, so on and so forth. So that's the difference between advice and the legal ruling. Laith Newton has a good question. How do you explain the will of Allah versus the command of Allah? Excellent question. Okay. The command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the law that he gave us to do. We have to follow this law. The will of Allah is what he created in the world. Okay. That's the will of Allah. What he willed in the world. And Allah does not have a law. So Allah commanded us, let's say, to fight a thief who's entering your house. Well, who willed for the thief to enter your house? Allah did. It's Allah's will. But Allah commanded you to fight him. That's the law. If a guy's stealing $1 from you and you fight him back and you die for that $1, you're a martyr. Man qutila duna malihi fahuwa shaheed, said the Prophet, peace be upon him. He died fighting for his wealth, he's a martyr. So that's how we look at these things. The will of Allah is best for us. At every moment we remember this: there is a will and there's a law. We don't take our law from the will. As a lot of the world today, well, if it's out there in the world, who's to resist it? No, we say, yes, we would resist it if Allah told us to resist it. Okay? It's out there in the world that, khalas, there are so many gays, millions of people are gay. What's the point of resisting? You're not resisting. You're not changing the world, right? They're out there. There's a reason they're out there, and everyone's supporting it. So no, that we don't take our law from what's out there in the world. We take our law from the book, from what the Prophet gave us. Simple as that. Okay. Same that one brother said, "Oh, you're never going to get the Khilafah back." It's irrelevant. It's not my job to affect this world. It's my job to see what did Allah give us in the book, what is the right way to implement it and practice it and talk about it, and that's it. Prophet, peace be upon him, said if the day of judgment was coming and you saw the angel pick up the horn, the day of judgment is going to be initiated by an angel blowing a horn, a trumpet, a big horn. Okay? He said, if you're planting a tree and you know a tree is not going to grow except after 10 years, and it won't even give you fruit maybe after more than that. He said, keep planting your tree. He says, we have something to do, and Allah has his own will, right? And don't busy yourself with Allah's will. When is this going to happen? When is that going to happen? When is the end of time coming? When are we going to do this, that, and the other? Why is that our business? My business is what Allah told us to do. When we asked Sheikh al-Maghili, what's the ruling that if the Imam al-Mahdi, the promised guided Imam who's going to unify the whole Ummah and push back all the Muslims' enemies, okay, push them back to the point that Iblis himself is going to get nervous and he's going to pull out his own atomic bomb, which is the Dajjal. That's how powerful the Imam, this guided Imam will be. So I asked him, what's the behavior of a Muslim when this guided Imam comes? Are we supposed to pack up and go and serve him and be with him? So he thought for a while, and then he said, all of us are supposed to be an Imam Mahdi. Right? He said, why are you worried about that Mahdi? You have the Sharia in front of you, right? Practice it, teach it, spread it. Imam Mahdi is no different than you, except Allah gives him the most tawfiq. Tawfiq is success. And you'll see it. We'll all see his success. We will all see his righteousness, because he doesn't come with a secret law. He doesn't come with a new law. He comes with the Sharia that we all know, and he practices it, and no one will be able to say he's wrong, except a hypocrite who's trying to be, who has a lot to gain from the enemies. Okay, so that's a good question there by Laith Newton, and that's the answer. If someone lives in a different city for university for multiple weeks, and then they come home for a couple of hours, do they pray travelers? You never pray travelers in your parents' home. Because it hurts them. That's your home. Your parents' home is your home. Just like I have a summer home. Let's say if you have a summer home somewhere, you don't pray traveler's prayer there. It's your home. What's the ruling on selling cats? I can't remember, to be honest with you. They call it an adoption fee, right? But I can't remember if there's a ruling on selling cats. So if I have a pet in my house and I sell it, I believe that maybe by analogy, we're not allowed to sell dogs, right? But anyway, I'd have to look that up exactly. Okay. Huh? No, some of these cats are like $800. Oh, don't you hear about cat ladies? So if a sister, let's say a woman can't get married, right? So she becomes a cat lady. They call this is. I'm not going to say this because it's just it's a generalization. But anyway, the cat lady is a type of woman who breeds cats in her home, right? And the cat breeding world it's a world that they all know each other. Because they breed these very high-end, gorgeous cats, and they will sell the cat. They call it an adoption fee, but this is how they earn their living. Sometimes $800. $800 for a cat.
You know those Persian cats?
How much more?
Like,
Yeah, they have a flat nose like that. Yeah, in the thousands. Okay. Now, when you go to the homes of such a woman or such a person, there's like 50 cats, and it's almost like it smells. Because no matter how much you have to use a lot of cat litter, right? And they never declaw them, of course. So everything is scratched. The couch looks terrible, right? Everything is scratched up. Okay. And so they have a reputation, such people, as being a little bit kooky, right? Because they end up being more attached to the animals than humans. Right? So
I have a funny story, but I'll tell you after the pod.
okay. All right. Now, next question here. What do we have here? Is it permissible to wipe over waterproof socks in Maliki fiqh? والجواب لا. جواب لا. It's the khuf and nothing else. Okay.
Someone's asking, where's Ustad gone in the Instagram? Can't see you.
Where?
Like, where did Ustad go? Because they're on Instagram.
Oh, okay. All right, why don't we go back to the regular one for a little bit, then we can go back. Okay. Is the summer intensive for men and women? Yes, it is. I really think we'll get ourselves an apartment. We'll get an apartment, yeah, for the students, and we'll just sublease it. Because these college kids, they leave, or the owners rent out to college kids. The college kids don't rent in July and August, so we'll have it. Yesterday, he talked about changing your name in Islam and nicknames, and he talked about adoption. Is it allowed for the adopting parents to give their legal name to the adopted kid? Yes, it is. As long as you're not lying about who the dad is. So you have to tell them, your dad is so-and-so according to the adoption papers. We're going to call you our name, but it should be known this is so-and-so's son. And you should not mislead your community members that this is your son. Let's say, hypothetically, you all move and you go to a place that doesn't know the background story and doesn't know who you are. You can't lie and say, oh, this is our son. Okay? And, of course, you know the rules of adoption. There's something called the milk parenting, or the milk relations, I should say. Milk mother, milk father. Not parenting, milk parent. Which is that if a woman saves some of her breast milk, or even takes medicine and produces breast milk and feeds it to a baby around or under the age of 2, she becomes a milk mother to that child. And it takes on all the implications for the rest of her family. So if it's a boy, then that woman's daughters and future daughters will be brothers to that boy. Milk brothers. Allah is a mercy from Allah to establish a different way, not by blood, to be related. So that it's the exact same now as if they were brothers. except that the inheritance rule don't apply. But they can give from the thuluth. That's solved too, because the Prophet ﷺ gave from 1/3, maximum 1/3 of your wealth. You can endow it or bestow it upon a non-inheritor, which is like a adopted son or something like that. But keep in mind, adoption is unlawful when we mean naming the son to be me, right? Right. Or naming the son, or saying the son is this is my son. Come on, tfaddal, take a seat here. MashaAllah. And you are? Yasin, ahlan wa sahlan, you made it. You were talking recently, right?
Yep.
That was you, mashallah. Here, you were talking on the live stream here, right?
No.
Where were we talking?
Email.
Yeah, on email. Ahlan wa sahlan, mashallah. So where are you from?
Morocco.
Morocco, mashallah. New Yorker. Where are you visiting from? California?
Philly.
Philly. Okay, ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan wa sahlan. Very good, very good. Okay. Does the head need to be covered when using the bathroom? La. What's the hikmah behind the Prophet ﷺ first declaring Zayd as his son and then the revelation nullifying that status for adopted kids? Well, it's the Prophet ﷺ did it. There was no rule against it at the time. Then Allah Ta'ala ruled that people must be named after their children and after their father, I mean, not their adopted father. And any time that something happens, that an abrogated practice happens that the Prophet does, okay, it emphasizes it, right? It emphasizes it. It's so that if that happened to the Prophet, then it's for everybody, right? Of course, every law is for everybody, as is. But when it happens to the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it becomes more well known, okay? And it's just to break a taboo. Of course, Zayd was honored after that because his name was mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Ahzab. He's the only companion to be mentioned by name in the Quran. So he lost Ibn Muhammad, but his name was mentioned in Surah Al-Ahzab. What are the Islamic obligations for financially supporting sibling who doesn't work and doesn't appear that they either want to or work full-time or able to? What would be required for a female sibling? Nothing. In other words, the female earns and her brother does not earn, she owes him nothing. She can probably give zakat to him, right? But because she's not obligated to take care of him. If it was the opposite, then yes. In Islam, from when a woman's born until she dies, there is always someone obligated to pay for her roof and for her food. And if she wants to sleep all day, it's not good, but she can do that. The purpose of Sharia is to establish that a woman will never have to work to earn her basic livelihood. Basic livelihood. So when she's born, her father takes care of her. If the dad dies, then it's the uncle or the grandfather, the next male, on the dad's side. If they die, then it's her older brother. Okay. Now, does he have to furnish her with a house, with a townhome like everybody else, and a nice brand new Honda Accord? No. Something very basic, right? He doesn't have to support her with at the level that she imagines, with what he can. All right.
So if the husband dies and it falls back on the father.
Now let's say the husband dies, back to the father, then the grandfather, then the brothers, then the nephew. Let's say she never married, and then her brother got old and died. Now it's the nephew, right? It's like that. Now, a female is not obligated to support anybody except in the situation where there's absolutely no fathers. In other words, her husband died. All of the father's side, there are no men. And all the mother's side, her side, there are no more men. Now she's obligated, right? Because she has no other choice. But that's a failure of that family. What happened to that family? And that's what happens when people move to cities and get cut off from all of their tribe in the farmlands. If you look at anyone in the city, they say, where are you originally from? Let's say from Cairo. They say, oh, Kafra this and Kafra that. Which Kafra is like a farm, right? An area with farms. In that area of the farms, there's like 200 relatives there, right? You literally had 200 relatives, and everyone helps working on the farm. There's no such thing as somebody who goes without a family. Okay. But once they move to the cities, then they got cut off from those families. And then they move again, and now they're like very far cut off. And it's very likely now at that point that you'll have a woman without any males. Okay, is using a horn halal since the angels use a horn? Well, the angels, we don't take our sharia from the angels. That's the first thing. But number two, the horn is differed on in the Shafi'i school only. All the other ones deem it an instrument that they're in the general statement that the Prophet forbade. But there is an opinion in the Shafi'i school because the Prophet ﷺ passed by a boy playing the flute and he merely covered his ears and he didn't pronounce it unlawful. And as a result of that, they said it's permitted. Malikis took that same concept, and really, I can't even say it's a ruling. It's a statement in passing about a sawi that he just said that some said it's makruh. But I think in the Egyptian Malikis, they do rule string is haram because the overall ruling forbade all instruments. I feel like I've said this like 50 times, but that's okay. There's new people here. All rulings are forbidden. Then the Prophet, he commanded beat the drum for weddings. So they said drum is halal, or percussion, permitted. And then he didn't cover his ears, or he just covered his ears without saying anything when the flute was played. So therefore flute is discouraged. And the prohibition remains on the string instruments. Okay, so that's the concept there. But that is not the dominant ruling. And the dominant ruling in the Maliki school is all musical instrument is haram except for women beating a drum for weddings. Because that's what happened in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. That's it. Okay. When is working in marketing haram? Working in marketing is haram in itself if the product that you're marketing or the service is forbidden. However, working in marketing just is halal with just that action being haram if you're lying. So for example, if I'm marketing selling phones, the job is halal. If I now tell a lie, just that lie is haram, not the whole job. Just that lie is haram. Okay. Exaggeration is allowed. If a marketer says this is the best phone on earth, that's not a statement that means anything, right? It's your opinion. It's not a lie. It's just a statement. But if you say this is the cheapest phone on the market, no, that could be objectively a lie, right? If you're saying that this one has the most memory on the market, that could be a lie too. So that's objective. But they usually tend to use these generic words where they can't get caught legally as lying. Should Muslims in America vote? I really don't know, to me. Who are you going to vote for? Probably, you know who I think you should vote for? I think we should go for anyone in the local district who went against the Muslims in any of their agendas. Just vote against that guy. It's not that you vote for somebody. Vote against that guy. Knock him off.
Someone asked, is it obligatory for women to seek knowledge?
Of course. Of course. A woman has to seek knowledge. She needs to know her farj ayn, right? The more knowledge you have, the better. Mass W is asking about Maliki Click, self-dependent. Why don't you go check out Maliki Click's new operation? Maliki Click has a new operation. Okay. Let me get you the exact title here. It's called Stronghold of Sultans. Stronghold of Sultans. What do you think of supporting politicians like Ilhan Omar? Again, there's a general and there's a specific. In general, no, I don't support any of these politicians. In a specific case, maybe, right? In a specific moment in time. Just like we said earlier, a whole job could be halal, but a specific action within the job, haram. Likewise with these politicians. In general, I don't support any of them. But in specific, yeah, there may be a moment where I support somebody. What time is it in Jersey? Right now, according to our time zone, Eastern Standard Time is 2:48 p.m., which means we're going to be wrapping up right now. And then it's, if you want to study with us, go to arcview.org. arcview.org. That's how you study with us. And it's myself and other teachers, and I teach twice a week. I teach Tuesday afternoon, which is equivalent to the evening time for the British folk, and then Wednesday evening, which is meant for the Americans. But you can attend either one. It doesn't matter, but it's what it's meant for. Okay. Does the throne of Allah encompass the seven heavens? The throne of Allah is the greatest creation in terms of its size. That's all we can tell right now. Is it correct to say that Allah creates everything, including our thoughts and emotions? The answer is yes. If it exists, it's a creation of Allah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up for the week. Jazakumullahu khairan. Ask Allah Ta'ala to give us success and tawfiq, and give us tawfiq and ibadah and consistency, and let us live and die upon the sunnah of his messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and upon da'wah and mahabba lil ummah wa nasiha lil ummah wa taharat qalb wa sa'ada fi ad-darain. Rabbana hab lana min azwajina wa dhurriyyatina qurrata a'yun waj'alna lil muttaqina imama. وصلى الله وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.